Hello, and welcome to the first lecture inside Section 2, Quick Overview of Unity 3D. In this lecture, we will take a look at windows and layouts inside Unity. So double-click to open it. Okay, now let's take a look at this Unity 3D software step by step. Here we have the menus. Okay, so File, Edit, Assets, Game Object, Component, Window, and Help. We will take a look at those menus as we need them. So don't worry about that. As you can see here, we have 4 buttons. Okay, one button to pan, so that we click inside our scene window. We click and we can move through this scene. Okay, here we have the move, rotate, and scale buttons. So for example, the move button, this move button allows us to move a game object through the scene in a specific direction. So we can move it through the X position, through the Y position, or through the X and Y positions at the same time. Don't worry about what a game object is, because we will take a look at it in the next video, okay, in a more detailed way. Okay, so we can move it, we can move a game object, rotate it, or scale it up. Okay, we can also change the center of game objects and change the reference points by clicking those buttons here. If you place your cursor on those buttons, or in some buttons inside Unity, generally a message will pop up and explain what does that button do. Okay, so as you can see here, there are many windows. So we have the hierarchy window, project window, console window, scene and game windows, and the inspector window. And as you can see, those windows are arranged in a specific manner. Okay, this is the default layout. So those windows are arranged forming up a specific layout. You can change your layout here in this button. So you can have a 2x3 button. If you click here, as you see here, your windows are arranged in this manner. So the hierarchy first, then the project, then the inspector, and at left we have the scene, and below it the game window. Okay, so you can pass through them and see what they do. Split, default. Here the default layout you have when you first create a new project, and the tall and wide layouts. Okay, I really like the tall layout, but placing this game window below the scene window, so that I can clearly see what I am doing, so how I'm creating my game and how my game is being created, okay, at the same time. Okay, what does the hierarchy window do? The hierarchy window contains the different game objects inside your game. Again, don't worry about what is a game object, because I will dedicate an entire lecture about what are game objects. Don't worry about that now. Okay, just concentrate on windows and layouts. Okay, so inside the hierarchy window, you can create new game objects and arrange them so that you can have parent game object, and inside that parent you can have different children. How do you create new game objects? You can do it through this menu, game object, you can create an empty game object, create an empty child game object, a child of any parent, okay? Or you can create other. Those are also game objects. You can also click here in this button. There's a shortcut, okay? So you can go to game object, or you can go to create button here below the hierarchy tab. Okay. When you have a lot of game objects, it is useful to find a specific game object by typing here what a game object you're looking for. So if I'm looking for my camera game object, type here camera, and this is my game object. If I'm looking for a dog game object, no game object is shown up here because I don't already have any game object called dog. Okay. So go to project. Here inside project we have the assets folder, the primary assets folder. Inside that folder we have different folders inside our game. So I can, for example, create a texture, for example, textures folder. This is the same as if you go to your main game folder, so to this folder, to the game tutorial. If you go to assets folder and double click it, you will find the folder we just created here in Unity. So if I click create and create an animation and call it new animation and go to this folder, we will find it here. Don't worry about what is an animation, because we will take a look at it as we need it, okay? Subsequent chapters. So if I delete this and delete this, no folders are showing up here in the assets folder. Okay, close this. It is a good idea to have different objects inside your main folder or your primary assets folder. This way you can create clean games, and it will be easy to find where you put your texture or your sound in previous days. So usually I create several folders. Let's say a textures folder. Inside this texture folder I will put any images, and that's it. Any images in it, okay? Inside my game I will put a folder called sounds, so that in this folder I put all my music stuff and sound stuff. I create new folder and I will call it scenes. So inside this folder I put all my different scenes, okay? I will, well, a scene, what is a scene? Okay, a scene is just a stage, okay? Your project or game can be made of different or of many scenes, okay? As many scenes as you want, and each scene can represent a different stage or a welcome menu or a post menu or wherever you want. We will be looking at scenes in subsequent chapters, so don't worry about it right now, okay? Right click on Assets, create new folder and call it script. We'll be placing here all of our code of C#, okay? We'll be using C# in this course. But so this is why you need to know anything or to have a basic background about C#, Java, or even C++ will help you, because they have a similar those languages are very similar. Okay, right click, create new folder and call it prefabs. In this folder we will be putting all of our prefabs. I don't have time here in this video to explain what is a prefab, but I will do it in next videos. Don't worry. Okay, so now in the inspector, well, not the inspector, I will open up the window, the console window. Okay, this is very important, and I forgot to place it here. Okay, this console will show up any errors or any warnings you have. For example, I'm having this warning: your 6-bit Windows installation is missing an important service pack patch. So this is warning me that I didn't upgrade my window to the latest version. Here, this window is very important because it will tell you if you have any errors in the code or something similar. Okay, it will show you a warning message and this yellow triangle with the exclamation mark inside. Or if you get an error, you will see it in hexagon. I think it was a hexagon, but I don't remember. I think it was a hexagon in red color and the error. You can play a game with warnings, but you cannot play a game if you have one or more errors. Fine, we'll be looking at those later. Console is also very important to debug your code, okay, or to know if your code is running a specific if-else statement, for example. This is very important, and we'll be looking at it in subsequent lectures. Finally, the inspector layout. The inspector window. Inside the inspector window, if, for example, I click the main camera, that is just another game object of my game. If we click it, then in the inspector, we will see the different components that are attached to that game object. In this case, to the main camera. Okay. So here in our main camera we have a transfer, so that we can move it in the X, Y, and Z position. We can rotate it and scale it, okay, so on. Here we have the camera component. We'll be looking at this in next lesson, so don't worry about all those options, okay. Okay, for example, I will create a new object by going to Game Object, Create Empty. If you see here, now we have a main camera and a game object. I can change its name here, for example, New Game Object. Okay, and this new game object is empty because I clicked here in Empty, Create Empty. And as you can see here, an empty game object just have one component, that is transfer. We can add new components. Here we have all different components. Well, all different categories component. So if I go into the Physics 2D, if I click it, I can see here the different component inside that category. And if I click here in this arrow, I will go back to the component component menu again. Okay, don't worry about components, because again we'll be looking at those in subsequent chapters. Okay, fine. I will create, for example, a new cube. Okay, so this button here, this under the Scene tab, I have this button 2D. If I click it, then I can switch between 3D and 2D options. Okay, so now I am in a 2D scene. Okay, but if I click this button, I can switch to 3D. Okay, my game is looking as a 2D game because my main camera is an orthographic camera. If I change this to the perspective camera and change its position, then I can see the cube has a depth, okay, as well. But again, don't worry about this because we will be looking at this in the next videos. Okay, change it back to orthographic. Here, if I press Alt next to the spacebar in the keyboard, I press Alt, and with that key pressed, I press the left mouse button, then I can rotate in my scene. If I right click with the Alt button pressed, then I can zoom in or zoom out, and if I press the middle button, I can pan, okay, to the scene. And if I click this button, I go back into 2D scene, okay, into 2D mode. Okay, now what else to say? As you can see here, we have 3 different game objects. As you can see, into the cube game object, Unity 3D created some components for me, just a transfer, and then Unity 3D created a cube, so a mesh filter, a box collider, and a mesh renderer. Okay, so we can delete a game object by right clicking it and going to delete. So I can delete this and delete this. Fine. Okay. One last thing, I think it's very important. This button here. Below the game tab, here we have a button that says Free Aspect. If we click it, we can see the different resolutions for different devices, whether they are in landscape or portrait mode. And inside parentheses, we can see here the width and height, okay, of that device. So we can easily take a look at how our game's looking in different devices and different screen resolutions. Okay, we can do this because in the first video, if you remember, we want to build settings and switch platform to Android. If it switch back into PC, for example, well, those are some errors. Okay, if I switch back to PC, then if I click here, we will not be seeing anymore any of those different devices resolutions. Okay, that's because Unity understands that we'll build in for PC, Mac, and Linux standalone. If, for example, I click in iOS and switch platform and close this window and go here, then I have the different iPhone screen devices. So iPhone tall, wide, 4 tall, 4 wide, 5 tall, 5 wide. If I click this, for example, iPhone 5 tall, here this window is simulating an iPhone 5 in the tall position. If I click here, iPhone wide, this is simulating an iPhone 5 position. Okay, so let's change it back. We're not building for iPhone but for Android, remember it. So switch platform to Android, and here we can, for example, see how our game's looking in a landscape mode for 8320. I click it, then our game's looking like this. If I create a new game object, for example, a sphere, and I make it bigger by changing the scale here. Well, not here, sorry. I changed the scale here and here. For example, I change here to 5, and change here to 5. Okay, I'm not changing. Well, let's change the city position, but it's not affecting how our sphere is looking into 2D mode. Okay, so if I change to portrait, this is how our sphere is looking. If I change to, for example, landscape, 845 480, then our sphere is looking like this. I can move it, but if I move it too much, our sphere will go out of sight. Okay. Well, I think that's all for this lecture. We took a look at windows, layouts, some basic things about game objects and console project. Okay, investigate by yourself on those options. But and these buttons here, for example, you can press play. If you press play, now you're changed back to game mode. So if you added any interactive elements to your game, now here you could see those interactive elements. Okay, but you didn't, so you're not looking at anything. We're not in here anything. So we can, for example, add a script to make this sphere move from the left side to the right side, and if we pressed play, then we could see as the sphere is moving from the left side to the right side. Okay, but we will do this later. Just know that there is a scene window and a game window. In the scene window, here is where you work, and in the game window is simulating what you did here in your workshop. How is it looking? Okay, it is looking like this. Fine. You can press play, you can press pause to pause the game at any time, for example. Okay, I think that's all for this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.